It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome in to a Monday on the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors Studios. I hope you didn't take my advice and go do any sports investing on Friday because I did a pretty terrible job of picking winners to all these games that were going on over the weekend. I had South Carolina 21-20 over Arkansas. 52-7 was the final score. Sort of like last year against Alabama. I thought, Arkansas they'll hang in there a little bit, may get beat by 2 or 3 touchdowns. 52-0. We've got a lot of stuff to dig into today. Not only my terrible predictions, but some NFL, little college football, and much, much more about the Hogs and South Carolina. But we've had this morning some breaking news come across the wire, and we've got a message for you right now from Arkansas Athletic Director and Vice Chancellor of the University of Arkansas, Jeff Long.
Hello, Razorback fans. On this important day, I wanted to reach out and share some exciting news for our university. Earlier this morning, it was announced that I will serve as the first chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. I look forward to working with those who will be named to the committee to select the 4 teams that will compete for the national championship in 2014. I'm truly honored and humbled to be selected for this position, and I'm excited about the extraordinary opportunity. But for me, today is about the University of Arkansas as well, and the growing national reputation of our university and our athletics program. We have made tremendous strides, and thanks to your support, we are making a difference in the lives of more than 460 student athletes. I am proud to be your Director of Athletics and hope you join me in celebrating this special recognition of the work that we are doing together at the University of Arkansas. Go Hogs and never yield.
So on the day we come to talk about a beatdown, an absolute thrashing, there's a silver lining, a positivity that comes from Jeff Long because he is named, like you heard him say, the first chairman of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. I can't overstate how big a deal this is that Jeff Long has been named. We knew he was going to be on the committee, but to be the chairman of a committee that the former Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, is on, that Archie Manning, Tom Osborne, Barry Alvarez, Pat Hayden, there's a retired Lieutenant General of the Air Force. This is a who's who of people who are on this committee, and Jeff Long is the chairman. It's incredible what Jeff Long has been, the honor that he has been given to sit on this board, just to be on the board, but to be the chairman is a very, very high honor. And, it makes me wonder I know this is the Arkansas defeatist mentality that a lot of people talk about, but how long is a guy going to stay at the University of Arkansas if he can chair this kind of committee? If Texas comes calling, which they will, if they haven't already, is Jeff Long going to answer the call, so to speak, or is he going to stay here and never yield? It's just a conversation for another time, but let's just, before we get into anything else, let me just tell you who's on the 12-member committee. We mentioned Wisconsin Athletic Director Barry Alvarez, Michael Gould, who is a former Air Force Academy Superintendent and retired Lieutenant General, USC Athletic Director Pat Hayden, former NCAA Executive Vice President Tom Jernstedt, West Virginia Athletic Director Oliver Luck, Archie Manning, Tom Osborne, Nebraska Athletic Director and former coach, Clemson AD Dan Radakovic. That's the best I can do there pronouncing that name. Former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, former Big East Commissioner Mike Tranghese, former USA Today reporter Steve Weiberg, and former Stanford, Notre Dame, and Washington head coach Tyrone Willingham. This ESPN.com story says the selection committee will choose the 4 teams, like Jeff Long said, that advance to the college football playoffs beginning after the 2014 regular season, as well as rank and place at-large teams in the non-contract New Year's Day Bowls, the Cotton Fiesta, and Chick-fil-A Bowls. it's a huge honor for Jeff Long, and congratulations to Jeff Long and to the University of Arkansas for being recognized in that way. With all that being said, we'll talk in the Hog Talk portion of the show with Jason Kilburn about what happened on Saturday. It's homecoming. You've got a team who hadn't beaten you in Razorback Stadium since 2005, and South Carolina comes in and just puts the hammer down on Arkansas. 52-7 was the final score. Arkansas now 3-4 on the year. I've got a couple questions that I want to dig into this week. I want to ask later on in the week. I don't think any of us, realistically, even to start the year, and definitely not now, we're predicting a win against Alabama coming up this week, but what could be considered success? What would have to happen against Alabama for you to consider it a success? I know there are a lot of people who would say nothing but a win is a success. I don't believe in moral victories. Well, I do, because when your team's not very good, you've got to take what you can get, and Alabama is good. They're my pick to win the national championship. Whether they do or not, it's pretty clear that they're better than Arkansas. So what is it going to take to constitute a success in this week's game at Bryant-Denny Stadium? By the way, game's going to kick off at 6 o'clock, and I believe it's going to be on ESPN, but I'll have to check real quickly. But when you don't expect a win, you've got to take what you can get. And I've got some thoughts on what I think would be a success. Anything as far as a step forward for both sides of the football would be wonderful to me. I saw a couple people tweeting on Saturday at the Razorback game that there was a lot of quit on this team. And I'll be honest with you, when it was 31-7, I quit on this team. I went to eat lunch because I was really hungry, and I was just not going to get any happier. Arkansas, if you'll remember, had just busted a long run. Keon Hatcher with the end around went 50-some-odd yards, and it was just like, oh, yes, okay, at least there's a bright spot to this. He fumbles at the end of the play. South Carolina gets it. Of course, I think he was down, and the ref called it a fumble on the field and couldn't overturn it, so to say, and had to live with it. And I just decided to go to AQ Chicken and have some lunch because I was pretty hacked off. Long story short, though, South Carolina went on to win 52-7. You heard from Steve Spurrier, and he said, I feel bad for Arkansas. It's no fun to get your butt handed to you like that, especially on homecoming. He's kind of a douche. I've never been a big Steve Spurrier fan, and Saturday didn't help or hurt that cause any. He's just a jerk. But Arkansas got it handed to him on Saturday, and we'll talk with Jason Kilburn on this in the Hog Talk segment a little while later about that game. Let's start, though, with our Peters Family Living local sports look. Had some really good games Friday night in the high school slate, the biggest of which, Russellville got a 48-22 win over Little Rock Parkview on the road. Why is this game significant? I told you on Friday that the Little Rock schools, with the exception of a couple of them, are not very good. Little Rock Parkview, they played close with Russellville for a little bit. Why is this a big deal? Because Cody Jones, Friday night, threw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Russellville was automatic offensively on Friday night, and we need to give a big congratulations to Cody Jones for his 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's going to, I don't think he'll break a whole lot of records because guys like Landon Leach played a little longer than Cody, and Cody wasn't necessarily the starting quarterback with all the reps and all that until the recent past. But 500 yards and 6 touchdowns is a big deal for the Cyclones and for Cody Jones. Congratulations to him. 3 touchdowns and 207 yards receiving for tight end Drew Smith. A great game for him. He's his family, friends of the show. We appreciate them and all their support for the show. But what a game from Drew Smith, a tight end with 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. The last of which I was listening on the radio as I came back from the game I went to, and he's streaking down the middle of the field, going going Gronk or Jimmy Graham there in the middle of the field. 207 yards, 3 touchdowns for Drew Smith. Coach East Temple Laws had 5 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Curtis had 6 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown, including a 66-yard touchdown. So a big game passing from Cody Jones, and he spread the wealth. I mean, Drew Smith, Cochise Temple Laws, Jalen Curtis, Tony Jones, Kentrell Scott, all these guys get involved in the action. And 6 touchdowns is a big game from Cody Jones. Congratulations to him. Russellville's got Little Rock Catholic this week. It's Pack the Stands night at Cyclone Stadium. And Jeff Terry and Cyclone Nation will have me to share that information that it's Pack the Stands night. And they want you to come out and support the Cyclones. The game I went to on Friday, wanted to get a little more up-close look at the Pottsville Apaches this week. I'm going to be in Lamar this week and sort of spoken for the next few weeks. So I went and watched Pottsville on Friday, and they looked really good in a 35-0 win over Mena. Got a little chippy there. The Mena folks don't really like Pottsville, it seems, and they were a little chippy there in that game, and Pottsville sort of stuck it to them and shut them out in the game. So it was a big win for the Apaches. They've got Dover this week. Looking forward a couple weeks to Boonville and Maumelle. Those two teams are both very good, as you'll find out here in just a moment. The 4A4 race is getting very interesting. Dardanelle had a tough one this week. They lost 42-0 to Boonville. Boonville didn't have their starting quarterback, and they still won 42-0. Boonville's very, very good. Dardanelle, although they were without their starting quarterback and some injuries are starting to mount up for the Sand Lizards, they expected to compete a little better than that on the road, and I'm sure that if Coach Josh Price were to talk with us today, he would tell us that he was looking at a lot of things on tape that he'd like to correct or do differently against Boonville. Pottsville plays at Dover, I told you, and Dardanelle will take on Waldron at home this week. They'll get back on the right track with a win over Waldron. Clarksville had a chance against 1-4 Valonia to even their record at 3-3. They were not able to do that. They lost 27-20, and now they take on Greenbrier. If I'm not mistaken, I think Greenbrier's got another Burcham playing quarterback for them, so they're very good there in Greenbrier. Clarksville looking to try to get a win there at home for the Panthers to go to 3-4. Right now they are at 2-4 in the 5A West. It's a tough conference year in and year out. Lamar, speaking of Johnson County, got a 28-12 win on Friday over previously unbeaten Cedarville. That's a huge win for the program. To go to 6-0 was a big goal for Lamar. We talked to Coach Jones a couple weeks ago about their goals, and he said, it looked like a lot of his guys had circled Charleston on the calendar. When I heard that, I thought, oh man, you start circling people way down the schedule, and you'll forget about the Lavacas and Cedarvilles that come your way. And they got down 21-0 to Lavaca on homecoming. I remember getting the score and thinking, oh man, this is not going to turn out good for Lamar. They're going to, everything's going to be down the drain, so to speak, as far as their goals. And then, you go spiraling out of control. You have to give them a whole lot of credit, though, for bouncing back. They won the game. I told you it was 21-0. Next time I looked at my phone, it was 21-18, and then it was just from there on they got a they got a block punt return for a touchdown, and Lamar won that game. This week they got a 28-12 win over Cedarville. Cedarville was another team that everybody was talking about as far as having a chance in that 3A conference there to challenge Charleston, but now Lamar hosting Charleston on Friday night. It's going to be our game of the week. I'm going to be there in person to watch the Warriors against the Charleston Tigers, who are undefeated. Ty Story, you've heard all about him and what he's going to do, what he's done in the past year or so for the Charleston Tigers, and the fact that he's going to go play for the Razorbacks, and he's a big deal. Charleston got a 42-0 win, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look here. I knew somebody played them this week. 38-17 win over Atkins. Charleston's still undefeated. Lamar looking to knock them off their perch this week at Lamar. It's the game of the year for all intents and purposes for the Warriors. A couple weeks ago we talked about the Pottsville-Dardanelle game being a big game. And for this area and the rivalry, it was this. I think that Maumelle and Boonville would have something to say about being the best team in the conference. This, for most people, Lamar and Charleston, these two top 10 teams in the 3A, this is the best, in my opinion, two teams in the conference, and they're going to match up in Lamar on Friday night. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good game. Hector, 42-7 winners over Mountainburg. They've got Union Christian this week. Look, Mountainburg put up a 60 spot week before last, and Hector beat them 42-7 on Friday night. The Wildcats getting things rolling. Congratulations to those guys. The people who were commenting on our Facebook with the scores were very impressed with what they saw from the Wildcats. Congratulations to those guys. Two Rivers was in a shootout Friday night. They lost 52-49 to Center Point. Good game for them. Just came up a little bit short. You never like to lose a game when you score 49 points. Ask the Dallas Cowboys, who lost 51-48 last week to Denver. It's no fun, but they were able to put up some points and be right there in the end against Center Point. This week, the Gators take on Jessieville on the road, so they're going to make the trip down there to the Hot Springs area to take on Jessieville on Friday night. Dover lost 35-0 to Maumelle. They take on Pottsville this week. Danville lost in our featured game of the week 20-14 to Mansfield. Just a heartbreaker there for the Little Johns as they wanted to go ahead and get back on the right track there. They're in the same conference with Lamar and Charleston and Atkins, and it's a tough one. Lavaca, Mansfield, Cedarville, that's a tough conference full of good teams, and Danville was trying to get a win there. Lost one to Mansfield. They'll travel to Lavaca this week to try to get back on the right track, and we mentioned Atkins losing to Charleston. They're taking on Mansfield this week, so it's sort of the round robin, the circle, as they all take on one another, as three of the teams that we cover in this area are all in the same conference. So it's going to be a big week in high school football, and we hope you will get out and support these local student athletes. We're going to talk after the break about a controversial topic that a lot of people probably won't agree with me on. It's about Adrian Peterson, and I just want to point out why. I don't want to say we shouldn't feel sorry for him, because we definitely should, but why Adrian Peterson's not the best guy in the world. That's just the nicest way I can put it. We'll be back right after this.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russell and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
All right, you hear my opinion not quite as often as I'd like to give it, put it that way. Sometimes I don't want to say I censor myself, but I don't let myself say things that I think will offend a lot of people, because I want people to watch, I want people to listen, and this show doesn't necessarily have to be about that all the time. We've got local sports, we've got college stuff that we can talk about. Well, I can give my opinion in some of those things, but about high school football, I just need to give you the facts. And sometimes, though, there are topics that come out, and this is not in a high school football thing or even college, it's a professional level thing, that my opinion is a little different than what a lot of people are saying. But I've read a post here, a story, I saw it on Twitter, from the New York Post and Phil Mushnick, and it's about Adrian Peterson. If you heard late last week, it was a terrible story about Adrian Peterson's 2-year-old son who was beaten by scum. This piece of trash thought it would be all right to choke out and beat a kid to death. And it's not all right by any means. So please don't take anything that I say to mean that it's okay that this kid was beaten and ended up dying. I hate it. It made me sick. But Adrian Peterson, the father of this child, comes to the side of the bed, and he sees this child dying, and decides to leave to go play in a football game on Sunday. And a lot of people, you read his tweet and his text message to a reporter about how, he's lost family members, and this is his way of coping, and this is the way he wants to honor their memory and that type of thing. I'm calling bullcrap, because to me, if my son is in the hospital dying, there's no way I'm leaving for a game. There's no way I'm going anywhere. Kid was supposedly unresponsive for a couple days before they decided basically to pull the plug. Now, this is reportedly, I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but it's a horrible situation. But Adrian Peterson leaves to go play a football game? Okay, yes, I know he makes a lot of money. He's a very good football player. It makes me have questions about the guy. And I didn't say that to, I tweeted it, but I didn't say anything to the effect that I think he's, a bad guy. I read this New York Post story, though, and it talks about how, we sometimes associate great athletes with great people. And, Adrian Peterson carries himself well. I'm not saying he's a terrible guy by any means, but he carries himself well. He's well-spoken. He's a nice guy from what I've heard. He's very respectful, and, he does things the right way. And we just assume that he's a great guy. Well, who else carried themselves the right way with the media and, seemed to be a nice guy, have it all together? Well, there were two guys that come to mind in this story, Tiger Woods and Lance Armstrong. Seemed to have it all together. Turned out they were scum. I'm not saying that Adrian Peterson is necessarily the same way, but let's point out a couple things that this story points out about Adrian Peterson. In 2009, he was busted for driving 109 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. Just felt like the rules didn't apply to him. He started a bar fight at 2 a.m. when they told him it was time to close, and he said, basically, I'll do what I want. 3 people. It takes 3 cops to subdue Peterson, the story says. Just a couple of different stories in here. This baby, this 2-year-old child, was a child out of wedlock. You can draw whatever conclusions you want from that. From a baby mama, so he calls her, and it's his second child. He's not Antonio Cromartie by a long stretch. He's got like 11 kids. He doesn't even know all their names. But this woman that he had this child with, they're not together. He, chances are, doesn't have a relationship with this child, didn't have a relationship with this child. So, I feel like, giving Adrian Peterson this whole, oh, he's such a great guy, he left this kid and this family to go play a football game. To me, it seems like your priorities are a little out of whack there. I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but, I think this kind of opens up a bigger conversation that we don't have time to get into, and I don't necessarily need to give you my opinion on everything, but we ought to probably watch who we make our role models and the people who we look up to, and the character traits that we ascribe to people who may not necessarily deserve them. I talked about Michael Jordan and my thoughts on the guy. The player was incredible. The man left a lot to be desired. He's never been, from the days back when I heard about his gambling problems and his punching players in the face at practice, and he's just never been the best person. You go watch his Hall of Fame acceptance speech where he's basically throwing everybody under the bus. I did this myself. That's Michael Jordan. I thought of him as a hero growing up, and I'm sure many others did as well. But that's just not the way he is. So I guess the point of this and what I'd like to say is that we ought to watch who we make our heroes and watch who we give such status to. It's still a terrible situation, and I do want to wish the family condolences and that type of thing. And I'm not saying that Adrian Peterson is just scum of the earth, but it brings questions to my mind whenever you don't want to be there as your child is dying. You'd rather go play a football game. Speaking of the NFL, though, Adrian Peterson's Minnesota Vikings got worked yesterday, although there, I'm sure, was a lot of emotion and a lot of ups and downs, and it can go one of two ways in that type of thing. You can either rally around the player who, Adrian Peterson was out all week and it was a horrendous situation, horrific, or it can be a distraction. It seemed like that was the case for the Minnesota Vikings. They got beat 35-10 by the Carolina Panthers. My Dallas Cowboys now sit atop the NFC East with the Philadelphia Eagles, who got a 31-20 win over Tampa Bay. Told Jason, that's what I told you before when I started the show. I did a terrible job predicting games this week. I told Jason that Tampa Bay was going to get a win. They didn't. 31-20 losers to Philadelphia. Now they're at 3-3. Dallas is at 3-3 as they get a 31-16 win over RG3 and the Washington Redskins. To me, RG3 just doesn't look the same. Now, he looked pretty good in the first half. It's really tough, and I've seen this. Watch Arkansas play. Watch Brandon Allen. When your receivers can't catch the ball, it starts causing problems. It's fourth down, and Hankerson drops one between his hands. Just horrible. RG3 did come back and play pretty well running the football. Didn't have the greatest passing day, and the Dallas Cowboys defensive line with all the injuries. And DeMarcus Ware went out. Go the offensive side, and DeMarco Murray was out for the second half. They were still able to overcome it. Tony Romo had a ho-hum day. I think he just had 100 and some odd yards passing. It wasn't even a wonderful passing day from him, following up 500 yards. He only had 170 yards, but he did enough to get Dallas in position to win the game. Cole Beasley was the leading receiver, not Des Bryant. Cole Beasley was the leading receiver. And Dallas was able to do enough on defense. You hear Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football talk about the job Brandon Carr did, and man, he did a great job. But the real story of the game was Dwayne Harris, 86-yard punt return for a touchdown and a 90-yard kickoff return that set up another touchdown. He was a big factor in the game, and he really, to me, swung the game in Dallas's favor there on special teams. So Cowboys sit at 3-3. There are two undefeated teams left in the NFL. New Orleans fell out of the ranks on Sunday as Tom Brady made a career play. 5 seconds left in the game. He throws a touchdown pass to Kimbrell Tompkins, and the New England Patriots win 30-27 against the Saints. Wasn't the greatest of days offensively for either one of those teams, but the Patriots get it done. Eventually, they're going to get Gronk back. When they get Gronk back, if Amendola can play, be healthy, if Edelman can, he hobbled off at one point in the game, Kimbrell Tompkins can continue to improve. This New England offense is only going to get better this year, which, a lot of people, they're 5-1 right now. A lot of people would say, man, if they get any better, we're going to be in trouble. The running game was pretty good yesterday. Stephen Ridley got his first 2 rushing touchdowns of the year early on in that one. So New Orleans falls out of the ranks of the unbeaten, and New England, a very impressive win for them as they beat the team that a lot of people, this guy included, picked to beat them on Sunday. It was sort of a miracle finish. The 2 teams I mentioned that are undefeated, Kansas City and Denver, both just playing really, really well right now. Although Denver didn't cover that 27.5-point spread that a lot of people were talking about, they were able to get the win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was less than stellar win, but they won 35-19. Peyton Manning with just 2 touchdown passes. Poor guy, he's such a bum. And then what's his name? Noshawn Moreno, 3 touchdown runs for Denver. So Jacksonville put up 19 points. You got 20 targets for Justin Blackmon. Just an incredible offensive game from him. Cecil Shorts was hurt. Maurice Jones-Drew, my guy, got a touchdown there, so maybe he's getting back on the right track. And Denver gets the 35-19 win on Sunday. Kansas City is the other undefeated team. What can you say about the Chiefs? 24-7 winners over Oakland. You might just keep that because I think he's going to call. Oh, okay. Well, he's calling me right now. Here. I don't know. My phone's ringing like crazy. Here we are, just being all popular. Kansas City gets the 24-7 win over Oakland. The Fighting Darren McFadden's and Terrell Pryor. As good as he looked up to this last week, 3 interceptions. He did have 216 yards passing, but 3 interceptions. It kind of came back down to earth a little bit. He had a QBR rating of 9. 9 out of 100. It's not very good. Alex Smith wasn't much better at 22.3, but the Kansas City Chiefs as a team are just a whole lot better than Oakland. It's 24-7 there. Final score, Jamal Charles, the first player, I believe, in NFL history for the first 6 games of the year to have 100 yards, total yards, and a touchdown in each game. He had 22 carries for 78 yards, 5 receptions for 50 yards. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. Darren McFadden, he got right around the 100-yard mark. He had 83 yards, 52 rushing, 31 receiving, and Darren McFadden and the Fighting Oakland Raiders fall 5-1 or 6-0, excuse me, are the Kansas City Chiefs. There are a couple teams that are. There's at least one team. No, I think there's 2. I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars have won a game yet either. There are 2 teams at least that are. I almost called them total losers, but they are winless. 0-6. You've got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Giants. I don't know what in the world's happening with them. And one team jumped off that. I almost called him bandwagon. They don't want to be on the bandwagon. The Pittsburgh Steelers got a win on Sunday over the New York Jets and Geno Smith. They got a 19-6 win. We'll talk about some college football games that took place this weekend. And this is really where I took a beating this weekend. I look at some of these games I predicted, and I think I only got like one of them right. So we'll talk about those with Jason right after the break.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter, inside the Cogswell Motors studio. We're joined by Jason Kilburn on the phone. He and I were both at the Razorback game on Saturday, and both left with similar vomit tastes in our mouth. We'll talk about the Hogs here in just a minute, but let's look real quickly at the college football games of the weekend. Jason, I don't know if you were like me and sort of trying to catch up on the games that were going on when you got back from the Hogs game, but there were several good ones. We knew that the Florida LSU game was probably going to be the marquee game of the week. LSU gets the 17-6 win over Florida. That's the only game that I predicted right, I'm pretty sure, of the whole weekend. The Red River rivalry, Texas, I wouldn't root for Texas if they were playing Satan and his spawn. I would root for just anybody over Texas, but Oklahoma, I predicted them to win and win big, and it was the exact opposite. Texas won and won big. I predicted that Georgia would beat Missouri. Did not know, though, that Gurley and Marshall were both out and that Georgia was dealing with some of the injury issues that they had, and a couple other ones. I predicted Arkansas 21-20 losers to South Carolina. Wasn't even close. Stanford fell 27-21 to Utah. It was just overall an odd week in college football, Jason.
Yes, it was. Starting with the Arkansas game, I thought that would be a lot closer game with that, and I'm sure we can go in detail here in just a little bit. But, starting with that game, and then like you're saying, the Texas and Oklahoma game, I mean, that's just exactly what Texas is going to do. They're going to play horrible all year long, and then here comes Oklahoma into town, and they play well. Actually, at the Cotton Bowl there, that they actually played good. So Mac Brown, I guess, is not going to get fired maybe this year since he beat Oklahoma. And then the Missouri and Georgia game, they had both of their running backs out, like you were saying, but they're also out with one of their top wide receivers. But I still thought Georgia had enough talent to beat Missouri, and now with Missouri winning that game, which I would have liked to have seen how good they were going to be with a healthy James Franklin, but I guess he's possibly out for the rest of the year with that shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So now, they're probably going to come back down to earth and start losing a couple games, which I would have liked to see how good they were going to be.
Yeah, doesn't it mean that the SEC East is a little bit more open? You've got Missouri, now they're going to have to take on Florida and South Carolina back-to-back weeks, and also Texas A&M. So I'd expect them to have 3 losses when the year's over, all 3 conference losses. Georgia will have 1 conference loss as of right now. The other one was to Clemson. And South Carolina, I believe, has just got the 1 conference loss. So the SEC East is sort of wide open.
Yes, it is. Anybody can win that one. And, I had Georgia win the national championship this year, but, with both of their running backs going down, that's really going to hurt them. And the way that South Carolina looked on Saturday, I mean, heck, they could be the team to beat in the East now. So it is going to be a good race in the SEC East.
Yeah. And the other games, what did you think about those other games?
I can't believe Utah. I thought Stanford looked pretty good when they played Washington last week. And I thought that was going to be a good game. The other game that I thought was a really good game was Oregon, and they played Washington this week. And I thought Oregon would run all over them, but Washington played with them. And I know that game was at home, and but that was a good game. And then Penn State winning the way they did. Did you see that play at the end of that game?
The Penn State-Michigan game?
Went up and made that catch?
Yeah, that was good, man.
Four
overtimes?
3 or 4 feet off the ground. It seemed like he went up and just grabbed that ball out of the air. That was an unbelievable catch.
Yeah. Hey, Arkansas fans, you need to take a look at the Wisconsin 35, Northwestern 6 win there. Wisconsin got a win over the 19th ranked team in the country, and it's sort of, they're going on the Brett Bielema style, and they're sort of running. It's. I don't want to call this new coach Houston Nutt, but he's winning with somebody else's players. And right now, Wisconsin looking pretty good. It's sort of what Arkansas hopes to get to. Although with the coaching staff the way it is, I think Arkansas can be. The ceiling for Wisconsin is a little lower than what I think Arkansas can get to. We'll talk about the Hogs more here in just a little bit. But, Jason, it's been a weird week in college football. The only things that we know right now, the top 3 teams are pretty set. You've got Alabama, who won 48-7 over Kentucky, and they're going to beat the dog crap out of Arkansas this week. And then Oregon, who got a 45-24 win over Washington. And Clemson, the number 3 team in the country, got a 24-14 win over Boston College. Basically, for me, being a Pac-12 hater that I am, the only thing that I can hope for now is that Stanford, who fell against Utah, can jump back up and beat Oregon, and we can have a couple more teams get upset and maybe see an Arkansas or an Alabama and another SEC team, maybe like LSU, jump back up into the national championship picture, so we can see a pretty good national championship game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the SEC. Of course, I'm an SEC fan, and I'd like to see Alabama and LSU, or Alabama and Georgia, or Alabama and whoever else wins the East. But I'd really like to see Auburn go undefeated this year. Everybody keeps saying how good they are out there in the West, and they've never really went up against a good, solid SEC team. So I would like to see them go undefeated and Bama stay undefeated, and them two win it or play in the national championship game. That's what I would like to see.
Oh, well, Auburn and Alabama, did they not play in the regular season? Is that not? Did you say Auburn?
No, did I say Auburn? I meant Oregon.
Okay, yeah, okay. No, I think you said Auburn, but Alabama, Oregon, that does make sense. And Oregon would have to play Stanford probably twice, and that would mean that their strength of schedule would be pretty good there. I'm sort of the same way. I think that I joked about Oregon. I picked Ohio State to play in the national championship game just because I figured that Oregon and Stanford would beat up on one another and would lose somewhere along the lines, and that Ohio State didn't play anybody, so they would find a way to make it to the national championship game, and that may still happen. But I would like to see Oregon and Alabama just so we can finally get that big, strong, defensive-minded football team versus really fast, offensive-minded football team, and sort of settle that. I don't want to say once and for all, because next year we'd have the same conversation. Well, no, this team's better, and this team is, they're okay, so I think this fast team could beat this strong team. I think that Alabama would win that game, but I'm a little biased here in SEC country and picking Alabama to win the national championship. So, like you said, Jason, I'm looking forward to a good season, or the rest of the season in college football. I didn't bring you in with the NFL, but was there anything that jumped out to you yesterday in the NFL?
No, I mean, just Kansas City and Denver staying undefeated, and you've already mentioned Tom Brady. He looked like Tom Brady of old on that last drive, and if he had some weapons at wide receiver, that team would be good. And then the only other thing that I wanted to hit on the NFL was when Shaw went down yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't care how bad your team is, and I don't care how bad your player is. I don't care if he's fumbled it 100 times in a row and he's thrown 10 million interceptions. When a player goes down and he gets injured, and then for your home team to boo him, or actually they cheered him when he got hurt and wasn't coming back in. I mean, that's just sorry of your fans, and I don't understand why in the world anybody would ever do that if you're a true fan of that team.
If you're a decent human being, if you're on the other team, you don't cheer when a player gets hurt no matter what. I'm totally with you with that. And then they cheer and they get exactly what they deserve. TJ Yates comes in and throws a pick six. It's one of those things for the last 5 weeks. The Houston Texans, 4 from Matt Schaub, 1 now from TJ Yates, have thrown an interception return for a touchdown. St. Louis is not very good, and they got a 38-13 win over the Houston Texans. They are in disarray. Arian Foster had 20 carries for 141 yards, and Houston still, especially on defense, could not get it sorted out. I don't want to say that it's Wade Phillips thing, but we've seen this sort of thing with Dallas before. The defense looked really good under Wade Phillips, and he sort of had things going, and then a little adversity came their way, and then it just went all off the edge. And I think Gary Kubiak, if he wasn't on the hot seat, his seat's very hot right now. You've got Arian Foster, who in a lot of fantasy football leagues, and I know he didn't care about fantasy football, was the number 1 overall pick because he's very good. I mean, he was at least number 2. If Adrian Peterson goes number 1, which he probably should, Arian Foster was in a lot of leagues the number 2 pick. You've got Andre Johnson, who is still incredibly good. You had a defense that was one of the top defenses in the league last year. I think they were, 13-3 last year, 12-4 at worst, and this year, they're coming out, and they have just completely crapped the bed so far in the season. They've just looked awful. Gary Kubiak, Jason, is on the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm there with you. They should be a lot better than what they are. And, J.J. Watt on defense, and they got Brian Cushing at linebacker, and then you got Ed Reed at safety. So, I mean, they have a solid core of players that they should be a lot better than, what are they now, 2 and
I think they're 2-4.
2-4?
Yeah, I believe they're 2-4 now.
They should be a lot better than that.
Yeah, that's just a disappointing season so far for the Houston Texans. We're going to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks and that massacre that took place in Reynolds Razorback Stadium here in just a moment. And I'll get Jason's thoughts on Jeff Long's appointment as the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Breaking news across the wire this morning. For those that haven't heard, Jeff Long, although he was appointed, and we knew, to the College Football Playoff Committee, the committee that will name the four teams that will play for the championship starting next year. The news came out this morning that Jeff Long is going to be the chairman of that board, which it's an incredible honor, and I'll get Jason's opinion on it in just a moment, but to be among the 12 people, and we read those off earlier, you can find those very easily. We actually played a little clip from Jeff Long where he was basically thanking the university and talking about how good it would be for the university. It's a huge deal. I told you, I don't think I can overstate how big a deal it is for the University of Arkansas to have its athletic director chair a board with they have to be the most influential 12 people in college football right now. And that basically is like saying, you're the best athletic director in the country and you're the most influential man in college football. As far as I'm concerned, Jason, do you have a different thought about it?
No, I'm right there with you. It's big for Jeff Long, and it's also big for the university. And for him to be the chairman of this, and this is the first year of this big playoff, system that we've put in place that everybody's wanted for so long. I think that's just phenomenal that he would be chose to be the chairman of that. And it's a big honor for him and for the university.
Oh, it definitely is. It's going to mean big things for him and his career, which, I talked about the mentality that a lot of us in Arkansas have. He's got a good honor. What's going to happen? Who's going to come after him? I think it goes without saying that he's going to have to entertain the University of Texas offers. If they're able to see what we see and see what apparently the College Football Playoff Committee saw to make him the chairman of this board, you would expect that schools like Texas, who are going to have an athletic director's opening, would come calling for Jeff Long. So the question is, are his days numbered as the Arkansas athletic director? I believe that it's not too out of the realm of possibility, and we shouldn't be, he's not going anywhere. Shouldn't be too secure in that, because Jeff Long is going to be a hot commodity, Jason, following this season.
Yes, he is, and I'm sure he's going to get some major offers, from around the country to be the AD. And what he's done at Arkansas just in the short time he's been here is just phenomenal. Of what he's done with brought in the football center. They're about to build a basketball program or a basketball practice facility. The track, the indoor track. The baseball. He's done a lot for the university. And when he first came on, everybody was really he was disliked a lot because of all the changes and everything that he was trying to do. But in the long run, as everybody can see, it's been great for the university.
Yeah, Jeff Long has been, like you mentioned, very, very good for the university. To make that transition from Frank Broyles, who was a former coach and just a great mind, did a lot of great things for the university. He gets Bud Walton built. He does some big things, to more of a business-minded man in Jeff Long, who, he, like it or hate it, to answer the call and to never yield and all these things are Jeff Long products. And now to be honored as the chairperson to this college football board, it's a big deal, and it's a big honor for Jeff Long. We want to congratulate him and the university. Even if it does mean in the next year or so you're going to be trying to find another athletic director, we do need to extend congratulations to him, and it is a big deal. On to worse topics. Jason, Hogs lost 52-7 to South Carolina. I came in this morning and I was talking to David, who didn't watch the game, and I said, true or false? Tell me if this is true or false. Arkansas gave up 52 unanswered points on Saturday. He said false. I said, no, that's absolutely true. Arkansas scored 7 points with a Alex Collins run, and then South Carolina tore off 52 points in a row. It was disturbing, distasteful, upsetting, and every other adjective, adverb, or negative connotation you can put toward it.
I really don't even know what to say. I don't even know where to get started on this. It was very depressing to see that. It just seemed like the team had no effort. They had no heart. They just had no desire to win. The only bright spot I guess you can, get out of the game is Sam Owen-Hill. He had that 79-yard punt, and then he was named SEC Special Team Player of the Week.
Yeah.
But he had 4 punts, I guess, for like 53 yards or 54 yards or something like that, one inside the 20. So he had a good game. But other than that, you really can't say that Arkansas did anything good.
Yeah, it's never a good Monday when you have to come in and the first thing you can mention is your punter. But I did see one of those punts it was a 90-yard punt. He kicked that ball from the 10 or inside all the way into the end zone on the other side, and that thing looked like it was a rocket coming off of his foot. From where I was sitting, and I could watch it, and it was still rising at the 50. I thought, my goodness, that thing was going. So he did have a good day. It was bad that he had to have such a good day, averaging over 50 yards a punt. But Arkansas just did not play well. Receivers didn't catch the ball. Quarterback couldn't get it to them. The running backs did all right. 3 guys over 60 yards, but it was a bad day. Brandon Allen, 4 of 12 for 30 yards and an interception. 30 yards passing. The only reason that I want to have 30 yards passing, Jason, is if I'm running for about 500.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and I'm going to kind of go over a couple of things here that I thought was really discouraging that I've wrote down here. Okay, on the opening drive, we had 7 plays. 5 of them were runs. They couldn't stop our running game. Our next possession, we had 3 straight runs from Alex Collins, and he had 17 yards. Okay, on his last play, it was a holding, so it came back. On the very next play is when Brandon Allen threw that interception who was intended for DeArthur Cowan. After that, we ran the next 2 series, we ran 5 pass plays and only 1 run play, and then the run play was on the end around with Nate Holmes, which anytime Nate Holmes comes into the game, if he's lined out up at wide receiver and he comes in motion, he's going to hand that ball off.
Yep.
And if I can see that, I'm sure the defensive coordinator from the other team has been looking at film and be like, all right, if 22 comes in and he's lined up at wide receiver, they're going to be handing it off to him. It's happened every single time, but I don't understand why Arkansas abandoned the running game so early, because we was having success against them. And it just seemed like Chaney just got caught up at that time we were only down 10-7. So it just seemed like Chaney just gave up on the running game too early and thought that Brandon Allen could, pass the ball. And he was talking about his 4 completions that he had. 3 of them was to running backs, and only 1 went to our wide receiver.
Yep.
That should never happen. And your tight end, we have the best tight end that Arkansas has had in a long time since DJ Williams, and he's probably the best wide receiver we have on the team right now. And for them to not even try to get him involved in the passing game is beyond me. As far as I know, I don't know if I think they threw it to him 1 time, but other than that, they didn't even try to get Hunter Henry involved. I don't understand that. And another thing that, I'm ranting and raving here, a thing that I didn't understand at all, and I still do not understand it till right now, why in the world would you have that fake punt there with 2 minutes to go in the second half, or the second quarter, right before halftime?
It was 17-7,
if you're gonna
right?
do that, you punt it to them and make them go at the 80 yards instead of faking that, not getting it, and then them only having to go 50 yards, which they scored a touchdown there. And we was only down 17-7 at that time.
Yeah.
At halftime, that was up 24-7 after that. There was too much risk there for not as much reward, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. They say it was a pass-run option. I think it was Brett Bielema who said, yeah, he had a run-pass option there, or a punt-pass option. He could have either punted it or passed it, and he said, I wished he'd have chosen punt. That's about all you could say in a game like that. You watch the coaches' responses, and they're basically like, this is unacceptable. I hate being a part of this. Some of them even said, I've never been a part of anything like this. It was a bad game. I do need to mention Alex Collins, 10 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. That's 6.9 yards per touch. Jonathan Williams, 6 for 61. That's over 10 yards per touch. And Keon Hatcher, 2 for 69. One of them included a fumble on a 50-plus yard run there for him. But it was just a bad game. We can't really analyze it much more than to just say everything that could go wrong went wrong for the Hogs on Saturday. I wonder, and I don't want to defend Brandon Allen too much. I do need to defend him against some of the people who these armchair quarterbacks are. What? Take him out. Who are you gonna put in? You're going to put in Austin Allen and burn his red shirt in a year that you're going to suck anyway? No, you're not going to burn it now. If you're going to burn it, you'd have burned it going into Rutgers. You'd have taken the red shirt off against Southern Miss and let him play the 3/4 of that game and then the Rutgers game, and you may not have ever taken him out. But right now, you can't take Austin Allen's red shirt off and play him over Brandon Allen. I wonder if that interception, that first interception, that the cornerback basically, it was almost one of those fair catch interceptions where it's just like, I'm here, you're throwing it directly to me. I wonder if that was supposed to be a curl route or a comeback or something that Brandon Allen was throwing to a spot and he was out of sync with the receiver who hasn't played much in DeArthur Cowan. I wonder. I don't want to say that Brandon Allen is that bad that he would just throw it straight to a corner. That looked like an Eli Manning interception, and he had some issues with Ruben Randall the other day that looked very, very similar to that. But to be fair, he lost all confidence after that. The whole team lost all confidence after that, and it just went straight downhill from there, Jason.
Yeah, and we were talking about that interception there. I was telling you, during the break, it looked like the D-back was the one running that route there because he was in front of the wide receiver. I mean,
he squatted on the route. I mean, he was going to sit there in the flat and take that away. But if the receiver's doing, if that's the route, he's supposed to stay in front of him. And Allen threw it just like that was the route, and the cornerback was obviously just standing right there.
Yeah, I mean, if Allen was going to see that corner there, why didn't he just throw it out of bounds? He had to have seen that.
Well, in those times, to defend him just a little bit in that if you know that a receiver is supposed to run a curl or a comeback at a certain point, you're throwing it before he breaks necessarily. You're expecting that he is about to break, and when you throw it, it's already too late. I've seen it in the limited flag football action that I've had where it was our quarterback, Brad Caldwell, and he would have to throw a post before you even broke because if you throw it afterward, the safety is going to see it coming and he's going to come pick it off. So you have to make that decision a little before, and it may look like you just made a terrible decision, and he may have. I don't want to say that he didn't, but he would have had to have thrown that ball before the wide receiver broke. Either way, there was a miscommunication, and it got Arkansas beat because from then on, it was just all downhill. Nobody had any confidence after that.
Yeah, and let me make another argument here. Why don't we ever, Eric Hawkins is supposed to be one of the fastest guys on the team.
Yeah.
Why don't we ever just have him run a go route and just have Brandon Allen just chunk it to him or have, whatever wide receiver you want to do that with? Because it seems like Arkansas will not throw deep, and the corners and the other defensive, the defensive team that we're going against knows we're not going to throw it deep, so they are going to probably start jumping on those routes early because they know that it's going to be a 10-yard out or a 10-yard curl or whatever the case may be. But why don't we ever try to throw deep just to try to keep the defense honest?
Man, there are a lot of different ways that we can attack this game and the play calling and the different things that we think should be changed for the Razorback football team. We are completely out of time today, though, so we'll hit it a little bit more on Wednesday. Jason, thank you for your time. I want to talk Wednesday about what would constitute success for the Hogs against Alabama, so be prepared to talk about that, all right?
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, take it easy, Jason.
All right.
All right, we're out of time. We need to make mention real quickly of a couple of things. Brett Bielema's news conference right now says Robert Thomas done for the year with an injury, ends his college football career. Just played very, very well this year. He was sort of a disappointment as a sophomore. He heard about all the good things he was going to do, wasn't able to quite live up to that, but he came around and played very well in the last year or so. So you hate to hear that for him. His college football career is over. Also, Brandon Allen, they say, is getting a little healthier. Martrell Spate will be back, and because he was out this last game. Darius Philon, Coach B says, has come a long way, and he is going to now start in that spot for Robert Thomas. We'll talk on Wednesday about what would constitute success for the Razorbacks against Alabama, but that's all the time we have for today. For Maddie and Jason, I'm Mark. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Wednesday with more Sports Blitz.